After a year away, Alex returns home to find a baby in his kitchen and 3 devastating letters. One claims the baby is his, another is from his wife, accusing him of infidelity, and the third warns him to stay silent. Alex must unravel the truth before it's too late. I had been counting down the days until I could step back into my home after nearly a year away. The idea of seeing Jennifer again was the only thing that had kept me sane during those endless months working on an engineering project overseas. But when I finally pulled up to our driveway, something felt off. The house looked the same, but there was something cold about it today, something lifeless. I brushed it off as jet lag, or maybe nerves, as soon as I stepped inside. "Jen," I called out, my voice echoing back at me, hollow and alone. My heart started to pound in that sickening way it does when you just know something is wrong. I wandered through the rooms, each one emptier than the last, until I reached the kitchen. And that's when I saw it. A wicker basket sat on the counter, with what looked like a bundle of blankets inside. For a split second I thought maybe Jen had decided to surprise me with some kind of quirky welcome home gift. But as I got closer, I realized the bundle wasn't just blankets. It was a baby. A tiny sleeping baby. My mind couldn't make sense of it. I stared at the baby, then at the basket, and that's when I noticed the 3 envelopes propped up next to it. My hands shook as I picked up the first one, tearing it open with a mix of dread and confusion. "Dear Alex," the letter began, and I could barely keep my eyes focused on the words. "This is Lily, your daughter. I know this must be a shock, but it's true. She's yours. Mila." Mila? Who the hell was Mila? This had to be some kind of mistake. I didn't know any Mila and didn't have any secret love child. This was insane. I ripped open the second letter, the one that made my blood run cold. "Alex, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I can't believe you would do this to us, to me. I loved you, but I can't live with the betrayal. I've filed for divorce. Don't try to find me. Jennifer." The room started spinning. Jennifer was leaving me? Because of some crazy woman's lie? I couldn't wrap my head around it. She thought I had cheated on her. And with this Mila woman, it wasn't true. The third letter was the worst. It was short, to the point, and terrifying. "Don't call the police, or you'll regret it." My legs felt like they were going to give out from under me. I stumbled to the table, sinking into a chair as the weight of it all crushed down on me. I stared at Lily, who was still peacefully asleep, oblivious to the chaos that had just blown my life apart. She was innocent in all this, but I couldn't even look at her without a surge of anger and confusion boiling up inside me. Who would do this? Why? I felt like I was drowning, gasping for some kind of explanation to make this all make sense. I grabbed my phone and desperately started scrolling through my emails, texts, anything that might give me a clue. I found it buried in a junk folder. I had an old email from Amila sent months ago. I had brushed it off as spam, but now it seemed like the beginning of some twisted game. The email was short, just a few lines, but the tone was chilling. "Your wife thinks she knows everything, but she doesn't. We'll see how well you handle the truth when you return. Mila." I felt sick. Who could be doing this to me? My mind was reeling as I tried to recall anyone I might have wronged when a face flashed into my mind: Kate. My mind raced back to all those odd moments before I left. Those times when Kate, Jennifer's best friend, had acted just a little too interested in our marriage, a little too eager to offer advice. I'd brushed it off as her just being protective, but now I wasn't so sure. Pieces started clicking together in my head, forming a picture that made my blood run cold. Could Kate have something to do with this? Could she have been the one pulling the strings, turning my life into this nightmare? I had to know the truth. There was no way I was going to let my life crumble because of someone else's lies. I needed someone who could find out who Mila really was and what Kate might be hiding. Without thinking, I picked up the phone and dialed the number of the best private investigator in town. I had to fight for my marriage because one thing was certain: I wasn't going to lose Jennifer over something I didn't do. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. I tried to contact Jennifer to explain, but she wouldn't take my calls. And in between worrying about Jen and waiting for the private investigator to get back to me, there was Lily. When she first woke up and started crying, all I could think of was calling CPS to take her. There was no way she was mine, and I didn't want her around to remind me of how my life had turned upside down. But my heart softened as I looked into her eyes. She was innocent, after all. A pawn in someone else's sick game. So I went to the store for diapers, formula, and everything else a baby needs. It wasn't easy having to cope with her on top of everything else going on in my life. But she needed me. Then I got the call I'd been waiting for. The private investigator had found something. The cafe was bustling with the usual afternoon crowd, but all of that faded into a distant hum as I sat across from Kate. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat as I set my folder filled with evidence down on the table between us, a loaded gun waiting to be fired. Kate was sipping her tea. The sheer audacity of her sitting there, acting like everything was normal, made my blood boil. But I had to stay cool and collected. This had to go perfectly. "Kate," I began, my voice low, almost a growl. "I know what you did." For a moment I saw something cross her face. Fear? Guilt. But she recovered quickly, her expression smoothing out into that familiar mask of concern. "I don't know what you're talking about." I leaned forward, my eyes locked on hers. "Stop. Just stop. I've got the emails, the texts, the bank transfers. I know everything, Kate. The setup with Mila, the lies you fed Jennifer, the whole twisted plan." Her teacup trembled slightly as she set it down, but she still tried to hold her ground. "Alex, you're being ridiculous." "Stop lying," I snapped. Heads turned, people started to notice, but I didn't care. "You're the reason my marriage almost fell apart. You used a vulnerable woman and a baby to try to destroy us. Why, Kate?" "No, we're doing this right here, right now," I insisted, my voice cold. "You owe me the truth. After everything you've put us through, you at least owe me that." Kate's shoulders slumped, and she finally met my gaze, her eyes filled with something that almost looked like regret. "I was jealous, okay? I couldn't stand seeing you with her, knowing that you'd chosen Jennifer over me." What I muttered. "I've been in love with you for years, Alex, and it twisted me up inside. I thought if I could break you two apart, maybe." I stared at her, my stomach churning. This was worse than I'd imagined. "So you thought ruining my life, dragging an innocent baby into this mess, would make me love you?" She winced at the disgust in my voice, tears welling up in her eyes. "I wasn't thinking straight. I know it was wrong, I know I've hurt you and Jennifer, but it's too late to take it back." "Darn right it's too late," I snarled. "You didn't just hurt us, Kate. You nearly destroyed us. You can't just say you're sorry and expect that to fix everything." Kate's tears spilled over. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Don't," I stood and grabbed the folder. "The police are on their way. You need to face the consequences of what you've done." She gasped, her face going pale. "Alex, no, please, don't do this. You made your choices, Kate, and now you have to live with them." As I turned to leave, she started sobbing, but I didn't look back. I couldn't. The weight of what she'd done was crushing enough without seeing the wreckage of her life, too. The days that followed were a blur. Kate was arrested, and Mila was stripped of her parental rights. I couldn't help but feel sorry for her, even though she'd played her part in this nightmare. But Lily was innocent, just a baby caught in a web of lies, and I knew I had to be there for her. When Jennifer showed up on my doorstep a few days later, eyes red from crying, I felt a mix of hope and fear. She stepped inside, and we stood there in silence for what felt like forever before she finally spoke. "I'm sorry, Alex," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I should have trusted you. I should have believed in us." I pulled her into my arms, holding on like I'd never let go. "We both made mistakes," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "But we can get through this. Together." We spent hours talking, crying, and slowly, painfully piecing back together what had been shattered. And in the middle of it all, there was Lily, our little light, our unexpected blessing. When Jennifer suggested we adopt her, it felt like the first truly right thing that had happened in a long time.